congressional district and the newly elected chairman of the Colorado Republican Party. Congratulations, I think. Ken, good morning.
I think so also. Good morning.
Hey, can I ask you one quick congressional question? I want to spend most of the conversation on your new title, but I'd like to ask you one Congress thing, if you don't mind. There's enormous debate, as you well know, around the country right now about the border and about asylum laws and things like that. And President Trump and others have talked about how the laws are a mess right now, and the combination of the laws and court rulings and some other things have created a magnet for the 100,000 people or something trying to get into this country on our southern border right now. So my question for you is, do you think that Republicans should, and do you think that Republicans will propose specific legislation to make changes? And if there is such legislation, do you think Nancy Pelosi would let it go anywhere in the House of Representatives?
The answer to the last question is no. Last year, we almost passed the Good Lad bill, which would have drastically changed our immigration laws in a number of respects. The visa lottery, the whole refugee issue, the issue on the southern border security, E-Verify. It was a package of immigration proposals, and it fell 11 votes short of passing the House. I don't know what would have happened in the Senate with it. It probably would have been amended, but at least we would have been moving forward on immigration.
So do you think there is no possibility of a bill that did a lot of stuff conservatives want, and you and Trump and me, and gave the Democrats maybe legalization and eventual path to citizenship for some number of dreamers? Is there any possibility for something like that happening in this political environment?
So no is the answer.
Okay.
We had that in the bill. The Good Lad bill offered the dreamers it was a 3-year fix to their current situation because the president's timeline had expired at that point. What the Democrats want is the people who broke the law, the parents who broke the law and brought those kids into the country. The Democrats want a pathway to citizenship for those parents as well as the children, and that's it gets close to 1.5 million or 1.75 million when you talk about that package. So people getting citizenship.
Right. Okay. So we're just going to end up with some version of a continuation of what we're seeing now in terms of the politics, no change in the law, and we're all just going to have to watch this mess for however long.
That's right. And unbelievably sad because immigration is not that hard to solve. We should have solved it last year. We could solve it this year. Too many people have their heels dug in. To me, everything's on the table. I want to not have this problem 10, 15 years from now, and I just think we have to put everything on the table. And it may be the end of a lot of our time in Congress, but at least we solved one problem while we were here.
Yeah, I hear you. This should not be a partisan issue. It's disappointing that it is. Okay, let's move on from Congress. So you are the newly elected chairman of the Colorado Republican Party, and my overarching question for you this morning is, what is your vision for the Colorado Republican Party, and how do you bring it back to some level of success so we don't all have to suffer through what we're suffering through here right now?
Sure. I think the one-word answer is win. The longer answer is we have to raise money. We have to make sure we are reaching out to unaffiliated voters. We have to message to our base and get our base excited and get the volunteers knocking on doors and making calls. We have to make sure we have good candidates who are trained and ready to do the job of a candidate. And I think that we have Donald Trump on the ticket. And I don't think I'm the only person in Colorado who truly believes that Donald Trump stands a chance of winning Colorado. The first time a presidential nominee, a Republican presidential nominee, is in that position now since before John McCain. lost Colorado by 8 points, and then Mitt Romney by 6 points, and Donald Trump last election cycle by 4 points. So I think this time Donald Trump stands a good chance, and I think Cory Gardner. And I think the combination of Colorado being in play with those two election campaigns will really help Republicans down the ballot.
How can you look at what happened this past November, where we had as much of a blue wave in this state as I've seen in my years here, and think that President Trump has a real chance of winning this state in 2020?
I tell you, I think that President Trump appeals. Well, first of all, look at the blue wave. The blue wave was a blue wave for candidates in the state legislature, statewide candidates. It was not a blue wave when you look at the ballot initiatives. Every single conservative position was won on the ballot initiatives. So I think the Democrats did a better job of getting their message out on candidates. I think they spent a lot of money on candidates, and I think that we have to compete on that level. But certainly, I don't believe that Colorado is any more blue than it was 10 years ago.
One of the things that you pointed out, obviously in 2020, President Trump will be on the ballot again. He wasn't in 2018. As you try to strategize going forward for the Republican strategy, how do you balance the concept that all politics is local, as truism we've heard for so many years, with the fact that in the age of Trump, it seems like almost everything is about Trump? Well,
everything is. I think both are true, actually. And I say that because as President Trump talks about immigration, for example, immigration is a national issue, but it's also a local issue. The person who got laid off, or the person whose wage isn't rising, or the person who sees jobs going overseas is looking at immigration, is looking at trade, is looking at our economy and seeing a local impact of some very national issues. And I think President Trump has really done a great job of putting his finger on issues that a lot of hard-working Americans care about. And those include, if you look at the great economy we have right now, there's no way that we would have had this economy had Hillary Clinton been elected. And I think many, many Americans believe that.
And I believe it too. I'm absolutely with you on that. One of the things that concerns me, and I'd like to know how you will attempt to address this. I think a lot of the Trump base doesn't love Cory Gardner, and a lot of the moderates or moderate conservatives who are strong supporters of Cory Gardner don't love President Trump. How do you reassemble all that and put together this broader Republican Party to get large numbers of people to come out for both Cory and Trump and state legislative candidates? The party has seemed a little bit broken, and it's kind of your job to put it back together, right?
So I think that the Democrats are giving us a golden opportunity to solidify our base. I think that there are a lot of people who are upset with the national popular vote issue, doing away with the Electoral College. I think there's a lot of people that are upset with this red flag law. There are a lot of people who are upset with the oil and gas bill, and a lot of the people who are upset with oil and gas are workers who, oil field workers who for years didn't vote or voted Democrat. And I think that a lot of people that own guns fall into that same category. And so I think we have a very good opportunity because of the lurch to the left to solidify our base. There's nothing that unites people more than the threat they feel from the other side. And so while there may have been some disagreements in the last year or two where someone may have said, well, I'm a Trump person, I don't like Cory Gardner, or I'm a Cory Gardner person, I don't like Trump. They're both now looking across the river, and they're looking at the enemy, and they're saying we need to make sure that we stand together and don't allow this to continue.
I agree with you on that, and I'd also note for those listeners who might not know you very well that you're very well acquainted with what you're speaking about right now in the sense that you represent in Congress the part of the state of Colorado that is responsible for the large majority of the state's oil production.
That's right. In northern Colorado is oil and gas country, and it will be seriously impacted. And Ross, what people, a lot of people outside of northern Colorado don't understand is this isn't an attempt to just reduce the profits of oil and gas companies or some environmental issue. This is going to have a huge impact on our school districts. The small school districts in Weld County, in Morgan County, rely on the oil and gas revenue for the school district. We're going to have a huge economic problem in northeastern Colorado if the legislature continues down this path.
Yeah, it's really tragic. I don't know whether to cry or scream or what at what the Democrats are doing in this state right now. One of the things that we saw, again, in the 2018 elections, Ken, and partly this because Jared Polis has so much of his own personal wealth, and that won't be a factor in 2020, but Republicans were outspent. And as you mentioned, one of your key goals in getting on a path to winning is raising money. And I know very little about that. Can you tell us what that looks like from your position as the new chairman of the Colorado Republican Party?
So we obviously will be going to a lot of donors in Colorado and asking them to support the effort within the party. There are campaign limits within the party. There are campaign limits for various candidates. And Jared Polis was part of an effort 10, 12 years ago to severely restrict campaign contributions to candidates. And now that benefits the rich. That benefits Jared Polis because he can spend $23 million of his own money to run for governor. Walker Stapleton doesn't have $23 million to spend, and so he's got to raise that money $200 at a time. And it's ridiculous to think that somebody can do that. And so the rich Democrats, once again, through this, we're really doing something that's going to benefit. This campaign finance new system is going to benefit. We're going to get money out of politics. They didn't get money. They got our money out of politics. They didn't get their money out of politics because they play in third-party areas with third-party entities. And so the effort in the Republican Party will be to raise money, hard dollars, what we call it, in the party and in candidates' campaigns. But then outside of my job, there will be money that will be raised and spent in independent expenditure committees that the candidates have no control over, that the party has no control over, and it's the worst way, and they knew it when they did it 10, 12 years ago. It's the worst way to set up a political system because the public is getting information that is not filtered through the party or through candidates.
Right, and the candidates can't coordinate, so they can't even control the message that's being sent out about them. And in some cases, the outside spending is much larger than the actual spending by the candidates. So a message, nominally in support of a particular candidate might actually be quite different from what the candidate would want to be said about himself, right?
Absolutely, and you don't know the source of that money. Oftentimes, it is money that is hidden through layers of moving the money around. And so, while we have campaign disclosure statements from candidates in the party, we don't have that from those independent expenditure groups, whether they be 501c3 or otherwise. And so, the transparency is gone when you minimize contributions to candidates and party.
Yeah. What I analogize it to is the Democrats, or the people who put in all this so-called campaign finance reform stuff, are saying we're going to throw a rock into the middle of a river and the river's going to stop. It does not work that way. I've got about 1 minute left. What I'd like you to do, Ken, if you don't mind, is give us an example of what your, literally 45-second pitch would be to a Republican who maybe has been a little bit disenchanted with losing. How are you going to get him back to vote and to donate money so we can win again?
So my message is very simple. We are going to compete for every vote in Colorado, and I mean every vote. I don't care if it's a Republican, an unaffiliated vote, or a Democrat, and we are going to do that with every means possible, traditional radio and TV, and mail, but especially social media, where we are reaching out to people, especially younger voters who are still making up their mind on where they fit in the political spectrum, and we are going to compete for those votes. We're going to talk about the pocketbook issues that affect Coloradans, and we need the support of Republicans to have the resources to reach out and win elections.
Congressman Ken Buck, newly elected chairman of the Colorado Republican Party. Again, congratulations. I look forward to and hope for tremendous success on your part, and I look forward to talking to you again, Ken.
I look forward to it also. Thanks.
Okay. We'll be right back with some important information about recalling Governor Polis.
This report is sponsored by Hampton by Hilton.
Crowded highways this morning and a bunch of problems. I-25 northbound I-25 backed up in the tech center.